Hello, everyone, and welcome to Arnetta and Friends on this first segment of King's Roundtable Talk. We are here live and on location at St. Philip AME Church in Savannah, Georgia, located at 613 Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. And welcome to the King's Roundtable. My name is Stephen Lee, and I am your host for this segment. We have been having some very lively and interesting conversation as we prepared for this show. But I want to start off talking about something that is foundational to the way we make decisions, to some of the choices we make, and even to the way we live our lives every day in our behavior. And that something is spirituality. Let me begin by saying, and some of my brothers may agree or disagree with me, I have become convinced that everyone who is spiritual is not religious, and everyone who is religious is not spiritual. So let me just go around the table and just ask this question. What does spirituality mean to you? And whoever wants to jump in, please feel free to dive in.
Well, I'll start.
Okay.
What spirituality means to me is a true feeling and a true connection to everything and everybody. It's like being religious is basically hold to, something you read or something you heard. So I feel like being spiritual is more of a feeling, so where being religious is more of an action. So to be spiritual is not to be religious, as to being religious is not to be spiritual. Because you can be religious without being spiritual, and you can be spiritual without being religious.
Right.
It's like they don't always hold hand in hand in every concept. Like, not to me at least. It's like being spiritual. It's like, let's say a spiritual person comes in the church. It's like, you can feel that energy. You can feel that vibe. It's like you can feel that. It's like you can feel Christ. You can feel that higher power. You can feel the universe. However you feel however you feel to take it. But a religious person can come in and either disrupt the mood or not drive the mood at all. Basically can either come and suck it dry, or just come and just add nothing to the fire. It's just basically a spectator.
They become an energy vampire.
Exactly.
Energy vampire. Okay. Say something about that energy vampire thing.
But I mean, the idea that, like Jermaine said, that somebody just comes in, they don't necessarily, I guess, add anything to it. They more so suck away everything that encompasses what the spiritual energy is of the area that they are in. And I mean,
basically the people who come into church and be like, well, why are we still here? It's after 12:30. The spirit can be driving the actual service, and you can't. The spirit doesn't have a time limit. The spirit's going to drive until the spirit wants to drive. So if it's after 12:30, and everybody in the church who is spiritual is feeling that spirit and is just driving, and you got might have your 4 or 5 people be like, I'm ready to go. We done been here for about 2 hours. Why are we still here? It's like at that point in time, you can take yourself out of the situation instead of putting bad energy and bad vibes into the air, because energy is energy. It ain't going nowhere. So you can either bring a bad vibe, or you can bring a good vibe, or you can actually suck the vibe, like he said, as a vampire. Like a vampire, just suck it out of the whole room and just put everybody at a miss.
So what it seems like you're saying is more or less spirituality is more internal.
Yes.
Whereas religion is more external. It's more of an organized institution, if you will.
Exactly.
And when you come in spiritual minded, and that's just who you are. Whereas being religious is what you do.
Right.
And so sometimes there's a conflict in who you are and what you do. And I think it's very important that we have to be mindful that when we do come in contact with spirit, there could be and may be a conflict with those who are religious.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
There
Well,
definitely can.
that's great. Well, first of all, I want to say it's good to talk about spirituality in such a group of strong Christian leaders like yourself. But when I look at spirituality, I think of something personal, a relationship that you have with a higher being. So when you're spiritual, it's not with a group. It's that your personal relationship. So many people can be religious and being associated with Methodists or Baptists or Buddhism. They can be religious, but a spiritual relationship is your personal connection with a higher being. And when I think of religion, that means I have a connection with a group of people that think the same and working on that goal to be connected with, because religious people come together and worship together. But you can be spiritual at home, and I shouldn't say that, but you can be spiritual at home and have a
As
relationship.
long as you send your tithes,
That's right.
Give us fire or whatever. Just
and have a relationship with the higher
Then it
being.
raises the question: can you be spiritual and religious?
You certainly can be spiritual and religious, because I think religion enhances your inner spirituality. When you're a member of the church and everybody's thinking the same and praising it the same, you can feel the spirit.
Exactly. You
Right.
drive.
Right.
Create.
When you hear someone interpret a word and express the word of God, it enhances your inner spirit, your inner being, and enhances your connection with your higher being. So I think you can be both.
I feel like a lot of controversy nowadays is people feel like if you're religious, like people starting to feel like religion is a bad thing, and religion is not a bad thing per se. It's like what the religion is more or less the structure, the discipline, to where, we all, when we're born as babies, we're born, we know nothing of the world. We have to learn. We're basically a piece of clay and we're molded. That's what being spiritual is. You have to mold that spirit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and religion is the way you.
and
mold.
religion is a tool to help you build your spirit, because once you leave this world, what is your purpose at that point in time? What was you on this earth to do? That's what a lot of people is really trying to gain that concept now, is what is my purpose here? So for my next journey, what is it that I'm bringing?
But you also have good spirits and bad spirits.
Exactly.
You have to be
Definitely,
careful.
definitely.
Don't think that spirituality is just positive and religious is sometimes negative.
Exactly.
There's good spirits as well as bad spirits. Just like there's
Just like
good religion and
bad
there's bad
religion.
religion.
And those
So,
bad spirits are the energy vampires.
Exactly.
as well.
You gotta
Yeah,
have you gotta have a balance, and in order to have a balance, like you can't have dark without light. You can't have light without dark.
Yin and
that
yang kinda thing.
whole thing. Like you can't have good without bad. Just like you can't have religion without spirituality. You can't have good spirits without bad spirits. Everything has to connect in a sort of way, but that is where the religion and the discipline and the structure comes into, and it's able to help you be able to be like, pick out, okay, that's a good spirit, that's a bad spirit. That's where the whole, that's how I feel like religion is for me. It's like to help you build, to be like, okay, am I giving myself to the right spirit, or am I giving myself to the devil? You know what I'm saying? Or however you feel like it is. That's
We'll
just me
have a
personally.
discussion between flesh and spirit, whereas flesh is most considered the evil side, the spirit is considered the positive side. But that's also who we are.
Exactly.
We are flesh.
We are
and
flesh.
spirit. So while there's still conflict within us, that's also who we are.
Right.
And we have to get in touch with, okay, this is who I am in the flesh, but this is who I am in the spirit. And that's who we are. Like you said, there's good and evil, there's right and wrong, there's balance. And so when you start understanding who we are, we have to understand that there are desires of the flesh and there are desires of the spirit. There are fruits of the spirit. And we have to be mindful. Ironically, the fruits of the spirit don't have anything to do with material things.
Right.
Exactly.
Love,
Yeah.
joy, peace, happiness. those are things that are internal. And when you meet somebody who has a quote unquote good spirit, those are the things that you're seeing within them.
And you can feel it from them.
And you feel it when they come in. There's
Yeah.
a presence.
Yeah.
There's a
But you
presence
can
when
also
someone
feel
walks in.
that negative spirit when, you know.
Yeah. As soon as you walk in, you can walk in with light, or you
yeah,
walk in with
yeah. It's like, you know,
with that
you can't put your finger on it, but it's like there's something about that person that rubs me the wrong way. I don't know them, but it just, you know.
Walk around with that weight on their shoulder.
Dr. Thurman, my brother,
Yeah, I think it's phenomenal. I think I agree with pretty much what everybody said. I think that spirit is, or spirituality is, an effort by the spirit that inhabits each one of us to connect with the one that created us. And so it's if you will, it's a communication between the spirit which inhabits us and the spirit that is God. I just believe that God is a spirit. And so our connection with God is through this thing we call spirituality. What I feel like religion is an attempt by us to create a system for communicating this spirituality to others, sharing this spirituality, teaching about this spirituality, growing, if you will, this spirituality. And obviously, unfortunately, there are always those who use these, as I love the way you said, tools, these tools for the wrong reasons. And there are people who don't know how to use the tool. And so religion often becomes a mismanaged tool in the hands of the wrong people. So I think that unfortunately, though, we don't do enough. In this world we're living in now, though, I believe that spirituality has become a term for those who want a little bit of an escapism as well.
Okay.
So they want to say I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious.
I've heard that so many times.
When in reality, you're not spiritual at all.
You just
You just of the world, and you want to cover it in a context that gives you that escape. And that's the word you use to communicate that. So that then you left with no real sense of connection with what the spirit that created you.
Gotcha. Well, this has been some awesome and heavy discussion for a first session of this King's Roundtable. But we're going to pause and take a break for a moment, and we'll be right back with you shortly after these messages. Hello and welcome back to Inetta and Friends. I'm your host, Stephen Lee, and we are talking to 5 kings here on this segment. And we were talking about spirituality, and during our break, there was a topic that came up that brought something to my mind concerning spirituality. And part of the topic was about fear. And I just got to thinking as we were talking about that, how our spirituality has informed our approach to fear. I know, as I mentioned earlier, we have Jermaine here, who is an Iran and Iraq veteran. And I would imagine that he has probably come across some situations that would warrant some legitimate fear. So can you speak, just start us off? Tell us about how your spirituality when you went, because I remember when you went. I was at your graduation from Marines up at, what is that, camp? Parris Island. And I know that at some point when you were told that you had to go, there had to be something within your tough Marine self that warranted some level of fear. Tell us how you dealt with that.
Well, we've always been told how, certain ways to deal with fear. But when it comes to fear, one thing about it is you have to conquer it. Like, you have to be able to just walk through it. Like, because you're gonna be afraid. Like, you know, that fear is gonna get to you. But the question is it gonna get to you enough to where you're gonna back out? And unfortunately, you know, being on that contract with Uncle Sam, you don't have that.
Yeah.
You don't
No
have
such
that
thing
option.
as fight or flight.
Exactly.
It's got to be fight.
You're gonna have to get over that fear. So, what I did was, number one, my faith was the biggest thing that got me over all my fear. Like, basically, you know, my mom and them, they always told me, it was like, it's your time to go, it's your time to go. There ain't nothing you can say about it. So if God wants you, He gonna get you.
Well, y'all excuse my French, but that's a hell of a thing to say going into war. If he wants you, he wants you.
Exactly.
Got to go.
So it's like, for me, it's like I was never really more or less afraid for my own life. It was more or less, I was more afraid of how life goes while I'm not home. That was always my biggest fear. It's like going to war has started becoming such a big routine for me, to where going to war was like going to work for me. Like, it was like,
Wow.
Another country today, so well, we got to go, you know. So it was more or less, my biggest fear was during my first deployment, I did have my first child, and my biggest fear was something was going to happen to where I was never going to meet my child. And that became one of my biggest fears. And so the whole time I was in Iraq, like, it was really hanging heavy on my mind. Don't do anything stupid to where you're not going to be able to go home. You know?
Right.
Like, make sure, you know, you take your training seriously. You take everything seriously. Like, you know, because it starts to begin, you know, like I said, it's like a job. You know, you wake up, you know, you do your gear checks, you make sure everything is good. You know, you already know what your plan is for the day. So basically, it's getting your routine, just like getting up, going to work every day. You know, it's just you're in a different country, and your job is different.
Right.
And your job may or may not kill you. So
I feel like a big fear, I'm going to interrupt you, but I feel like a big fear for a lot of men, or black men, is the fear of not being there for their family. Yeah, I feel like one thing that you see a lot of the times is the image of the black man not being there.
right.
So it's almost like we are being fed our fear, and it creates it kills the spirit in the black man, you know, and it's crazy. I've yet to experience, you know, I guess, a family of my own, because I don't have a family. So I don't have like children of my own.
You don't have your own family.
Yes, exactly. So I'm not.
Jesus.
I haven't like felt that, but I definitely can understand it and see it, you know, and it kills me to see it killing other people. You know.
But I'm gonna tell you, though, fear is something you have to control also, because you can't live in the absence of fear. Fear is something that happens every day, and you have to control. And I'm gonna give you a typical example. Every time a cop pulls you over, no matter if you are a 60-year-old black man or 18-year-old black man, there is a segment, there's fear.
Or if you're a state senator.
There's fear.
There is fear. It doesn't matter. You're a black man.
Yes, because they don't see a title,
Right.
huh? They see that there's a black man in that car,
Right.
huh? And I know they see that. So when they walk out, there's a fear that becomes you, because you know anything can happen. But you have to control that fear, because if you do anything wrong, you know what's going to be the outcome.
Yeah.
That's right. If you make a certain move, you know that guy may or may not understand.
Right.
So, and it's documented.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So see it all the time. See it all the time. So when we talk about fear for a black man, it has to be controlled, because if you don't control your fear, it will take over you, and you can be shot or hurt or even killed. And you're right. When I think of fear for black men, and they can't control or help their families, There's a fear segment. Being able to pay your bills. Being able to provide for your family.
Yeah.
And just by being a man, that's important. And if you find out there's obstacles that you can't do it, there's a sense of fear that goes by you, that becomes you, and you apt to do anything because of that fear.
Yeah.
Does our spirituality, as we talked about earlier, does our spirituality ever overcome our fear?
That's a good.
So
That's the control.
So I hope that what we have found is that the spiritual being is able to compensate for the fearful being that inhabits both of us at the same time.
Yeah.
And that level of spirit, that connection with the Creator, is able to keep us moving when the fear would just lock us up.
Yeah.
Or, as you said very eloquently, we do something stupid.
Yeah.
And I didn't serve in the military, and I do appreciate your service.
Right.
But I grew up in murder capital of the world. When I was growing up in Saginaw, Michigan, Saginaw was murder capital of the world.
Really?
So
Yep.
there were a
Ahead of
lot of
Detroit?
guns in my face
Wow.
because people were always shooting each other. And one of the situations, and there were police officers putting guns in, we knew, my brother and I knew when we got off of football practice, if it was dark, we were going to get pulled over.
Wow.
We just knew that. And when they would pull us over and say, "What are you doing in this neighborhood?" we would say, "Sir, we're just trying to go home. That's all." And we knew that. So the driving while black, was new to us. But I even had a friend who thought it was funny to run. We were playing, tag. We hit tag. He ran his mother's room, and when I ran in behind him, he went and pulled a .357 Magnum out and cocked it and put it in my face.
Finger on trigger.
And that's supposed to be my friend. I said, "Oh, our friendship is over."
I know, right?
I don't play when you
No.
put a gun in my face.
Time to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I said, growing up in murder capital of the world, it was either you kill or be killed. And so once again, it was the faith over the fear, because I had to realize if it was my time, there was nothing I was going to be able to do to stop it.
Well,
so I just thank God that all those guns that were in my face didn't go off.
And you probably grew up like all of us. We've all heard the saying, if you're gonna pull out a gun, you need to be prepared to use it.
That's right.
Right.
So I would imagine your life flashed before your eyes in that moment.
Many times
Yeah.
in school.
Yeah.
Guys just pulled up, white guys pulled up and put a double shotgun and cocked it. Like I said, too many guns have been in my face, cocked.
Yeah.
They did not go off. So that's why I have the courage. My faith says you can't kill me unless God allows it.
Yeah. So now, how? Because I know that somewhere amongst these theologians here, Paul said that God, the Apostle Paul said that God has not given us a spirit of fear. But at the same time, as you said, Brother Lester, that there is a healthy place for it. Because sometimes, depending on how we control that fear, it'll keep us from doing something stupid.
Right.
So what role do you think that our spirituality or faith plays in that fear, in that moment that we find ourselves afraid of something?
Can I just offer that I think that fear drives us to imagine the situation in a negative way.
I got you.
So what ends up happening is fear drives us to say, this is what is going to happen. And thus we then move in another direction because we, and there's that old acronym. What is fear? False evidence appearing real.
Yeah.
So immediately what happens is when in those moments, we begin to create, this is what will happen. This is how it will go down. This is how I'll die in this moment. This is the outcome of this situation. But as Pastor Hayco talked about, but faith or spirituality, that connection with God, says to us, even though you're in this situation, that's not how it has to go down.
Right.
And so if you study out that passage you just said, fear, what Paul said, some translations record it timidity. God has not given us a spirit of timidity.
Okay.
God has not given us this spirit to be scared to move in these situations. So I would just that would be my thought process on that.
As lively as this thing has gotten, I think we're going to have to wrap it up at this point. And we thank all of you who are viewing, and we'll see you later. We thank you all for tuning in to this segment of the King's Roundtable. We encourage you to go and visit the website where you can see it, www.women.power.org. Stay tuned for another segment of the King's Roundtable.
Join Inetta and Friends every Monday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.